Welcome back to SwitchCorner. My name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at Curse of the Dead Gods for the Switch, a title that's being compared to Hades, but can it do enough to stand side by side with it, or is this a case of spend your cash elsewhere? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. It's a story and it's about as simple as they come. As the eShop puts it, you seek untold riches, eternal life and divine powers. It leads to this cursed temple, seemingly infinite, and now you must battle your way through it. Story wasn't a focus for this one. It squarely had its focus on kicking your ass repeatedly, and this is demonstrated by the game, where this story basically translates into you entering the temple for the first time and facing off against the tutorial. The game adds some lore thanks to a codex, which is basically a detailed breakdown of each enemy you encounter, but that is mostly optional. I actually would have liked to have seen more story here, honestly, because the world absolutely intriguing and I wanted to know more. It's a gameplay and that's what you're coming here for, and first off, is the Hades comparison fair? And I'll say yes and no, there's absolutely similarities, but Curse is bringing its own unique spin on many of the mechanics. So first off, combat here is a free weapon system. You have a main weapon, a secondary, and then a two-handed attack as well. These can of course be changed, but typically the weapon choice can be summed up as close quarters and ranged attacks. So think the likes of swords, spears, bows, whips, shields, and the list goes on. There's quite a wide selection. Like any game in the roguelike genre though, half the fun is experimenting in the weapon selection, and that same thing can be said here. I for one actually ended up utilising ranged weaponry the most. So where the combat deviates from the typical formula though is almost its Souls-like defensive mechanics and stamina. Yes, here you have stamina represented by the white dots you see underneath my character. You want to replenish this, you have two choices: wait it out, basically just run around, or parry an attack which generates one ball of stamina. The block isn't infinite though, it is parry only, and this is a mechanic you're going to need to master quickly. Just to survive this world, honestly, you need to both conserve your health but also give you the best chance at attacking and dodging. The dodge mechanic then is attached to the left trigger, and it's a split second of invincibility that you will absolutely value. Where Curse of the Dead Gods really changes things up though is its structure. This temple comes with multiple floors, so to speak, or at least that's kind of the impression the map gives, and you won't be doing one big run here trying to, make it to the very end. Rather, you'll be facing off against almost separate sections. To be honest, the game felt a little easy on that first level. There was 3 sections. They could be beat in maybe 15 minutes once I kind of got the hang of the boss. These though reward medals. These medals then unlock further areas and locations, and each extends in length with multiple bosses. So the first level, think 1 boss moment, the second level 2 boss moments, 1 in the middle, 1 at the end, and so on. It almost makes it feel like bite-sized roguelike segments, and I actually quite liked it. It was definitely an interesting take on the kind of repetitive formula. What I really liked about these levels though, the area maps, it presents you with multiple paths but also just reveals the entire run from the very beginning, so you can plan your approach and path. Rooms come in a variety, but we get gold, which gives you cash to spend on your run. That cash does not carry over though, so spend it before you die. Weapons, the name says it all. Upgrades, so you get the equipment all good and strong. Relics are basically perks. Attributes means maybe you will improve the size of your health bar, let's say, or another area. I always went health personally. Healing, it's healing. Challenge rooms, and then unknown, meaning it's one of the above but who knows what. Each of these requires some sort of sacrifice, so either in gold or blood. If you have the gold, it's definitely a good day. If you pay in blood, it won't take health but add to your curse meter. That's in the lower right of the screen, which I now realise I'm actually in front of, so take a look here. So this curse meter, it increases each room by 20, but you can add to it for access to one of these areas, maybe a weapon or a relic. Get a curse though and expect some sort of negative impact, like every time you are hit, you're going to basically psychosis. The screen turns black and white, you can't see your health bar or your enemies. Maybe your torch will no longer light your way and it will be in complete darkness. Your approach here is as much about your skill in battle as it is balancing this meter, ensuring you don't hit that 5th curse in a run, because that one is particularly nasty, and I don't think I survived once I hit the 5th curse. Some as well, I will say, not so bad honestly, I actually like them. You don't get a choice though, and 90% of the time they're gonna make your life just that little bit more difficult, so it's best to avoid them where you can. The final part of the battles then, it's your torch. If equipped, you can't attack, so you either light your way or you fight in the dark. Now, dependent on the buffers, the relics, all that good stuff, typically what fighting in the dark basically means is you're going to take more damage. Fortunately though, there is plenty of podiums around the place to light, so get to them quickly and get the lights on. Just know these, like many other things in this game, are destructible, and enemies will often take them out trying to swing at you. Rounding out the fight then, expect just here a ton of different enemies, mini bosses, and of course full on boss moments. The variety is nice, and you can expect everything here from think magic to ranged attacks to close quarters to even those that just tower over you. Later in the game as well, that enemy count continues to increase, that is for sure, but I will say I did find some very minor slowdown at points as a warning. Not huge, honestly, not at all, but you will definitely notice it occasionally. Wrapping out gameplay then is the hub world or temple entrance, and this is where you can spend your other 2 types of currency, that is crystal skulls and jade rings. These carry over after death, and they can be spent on blessings, which are basically passive abilities, weapons, meaning they have a higher chance of spawning in your run, altars, which basically allow you to gear up before a run, and then favors. These allow you to refresh the items available at the different weapon or relic shrines you come across. Problems with the game outside of that kind of minor slowdown, honestly, very few. I've really enjoyed my time with it. If anything, the whole expanding of the labyrinths as you progress, it's kind of a two-edged sword. On one hand, it means, you always feel like you're making forward progression, which isn't a feeling you kind of get too often with these sort of games, always back to the beginning. On the other hand though, it does get repetitive quickly, kind of the nature of the beast honestly, but you keep seeing those same boss moments over and over. Likewise then, one thing I haven't mentioned, unlike Hades, this is more Dead Cells in its weapons, meaning it's completely random at the beginning of the run. You get what you're given, or at least the minimal selection at the altars. I would have preferred, honestly, a set range of weapon types here akin to Hades, because one thing I quickly noticed here was I wouldn't be keen on the weapons it was giving me. I would kind of know the room types ahead of me because of the map, so I could already judge whether I was going to be successful or not. If not, I would quit out of the labyrinth and re-enter. Kind of like cheating, I guess, but they gave me the option, so I tried my luck at another kind of rotation of the randomization. That freedom though, it led to some kind of building things to my advantage is what I'm basically trying to say. Otherwise though, look, it's good stuff. I'm confident that fans of Hades, Dead Cells, any of those top dogs will be impressed with this one, and the curse mechanic it adds for a level of strategy you don't often see. So graphically, I do like the style a lot. It's that Hades viewpoint with a darkest dungeon vibe, which I am all about. It's this cel-shaded look which adds a little more character to what could have been very bland looking temple runs. The game does its best to mix things up, but I will say that it can again get repetitive in its themes, and the theme of light and dark means you will be spending a good portion of the gameplay basically battling it out in a very small circle. Enemy variety then, it's heavy on repetition to make up the numbers, but I really do like what we get here with fantasy designs like think flying birds to more kind of grotesque, like this kind of fetus enemy that reminds me very much of something from Dante's Inferno. What steals the show though has to be the boss moments, and by the end game you'll be fed up of seeing them honestly, but these, those first few times at least, their movesets almost like bullet hell setups at points and towering design, yeah, it's just hard not to be impressed. So finally, the audio, and it's good stuff. The sound effects have a lot of weight with the attacks and the hits, which is exactly what you want here. These are some big weapons, and they sound equally as intimidating as they look. Music then has this almost tribal-like feel to it, but it moves with the action, with the pacing. I just wish there was kind of more of it. This is more almost themes for locations rather than an extensive soundtrack. That is absolutely a compliment, by the way, though. I just want to put that out there. I like what is here enough that I want more of it. So the final verdict in Curse of the Dead Gods is a game that gets a whole lot right. The combat and pace is solid, the mechanics will come instantly to you, and they're good enough that if you fail, you can only blame yourself. Now sure, there's definitely going to be a few cheap attacks in here, but given the scenario, it feels right, honestly, that they would overwhelm you like this, as they very much will. Then the mechanics, multiple currencies, weapons to unlock, relics to attach, curses to manage, stamina to worry about. It could have all been too much, honestly. I was thinking, am I going to be overwhelmed when I booted this game up? But they get that balance just right, and the curses in particular, an absolute highlight, and it does just enough that it separates this one from the crowd. The problems though, it has a few. The combination of a completely open map and random weapons can lead to those moments where you'll just want to kind of exit, try your luck again with the weapons. The frame rate can see some minor drops as well, and visually it can get a little repetitive, not because of the environment so much, though they definitely get repetitive towards the end game, but down to how much time you will spend in the dark. Not a bad thing. Definitely a design decision. Just go in expecting that kind of loop, running room, light torches, never to change. Today though, I really like this one, and a great 8 out of 10 from me. A few of the risks didn't quite pay off, but a hell of a lot of them did, and I think this is absolutely worth an add to the library. Will you be adding this one to the library though, and does this look like it's enough of a difference to, you know, live alongside titles in your library like the Dead Cells and the Hades of the world? With that then, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I have linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.